By Sri Lanka's best internet package for online learning and online working with many amazing offers. Call 1212 for more information. Sri Lanka Telecom.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, taking responsibility with the potentially disastrous MT New Diamond fire under full control. Legal action filed in Colombo Magistrates Court. Paying respects. Northern MP Gajendra Kumar Ponnambalam rubbishes government claim that late CWC leader Arumugan Thondaman never espoused the Elam nation.
Tried to mislead this house, stating that the Thondamans despise the Elam struggle. At no point did he ever choose to compromise the Elam Tamil nation.
Saving lives and money. President Gotabaya reveals plans to halve Sri Lanka's 130 billion rupee annual pharmaceutical expenditure. No explanation. Potential diplomatic spat arises following Sri Lanka Medical Council's sudden delisting of 3 Russian medical universities. All that and much more coming up on First at 9, this Friday the 11th of September 2020.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9.
Nava sunlight sakura, then dikukal pavathina sakura mal suandin.
Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dham Kekanai. Let's start with your local stories. Now, the case filed against the owners of the oil tanker MT New Diamond was heard before the Colombo magistrate today, where Deputy Solicitor General Dilip Papiris represented the Marine Environment Protection Authority and the Criminal Investigation Department. During the proceedings, the Magistrates Court granted permission for 3 courses of action that would allow the CID and the MIPA to conduct further investigations into the reasons for the fire.
The case filed against the fire that broke out aboard the oil tanker MT New Diamond by the Marine Environment Protection Authority was taken up before the Colombo Magistrates Court today. Deputy Solicitor General Dilip Papiris represented both the Criminal Investigation Department and the Marine Environmental Authority during today's proceedings. The Deputy Solicitor General sought the court's permission to file the facts pertaining to the future conduct of investigations with regard to the oil tanker. The Colombo Chief Magistrate also granted approval to 3 requests of the State Council. They include permitting the chairperson of the Environmental Protection Authority to obtain oil samples from within the vessel, permitting the Criminal Investigation Department to obtain statements from the ship's crew and to obtain a copy of the tanker's data log to determine whether the correct protocol was followed by the crew to douse the fire. The Colombo Chief Magistrate also directed the local agency of the company that owns the vessel to facilitate the necessary parties with what they require to execute court-granted orders. While fixing the 29th of September as the date for the next hearing, the court also ordered the Marine Environment Protection Authority and the CID to submit a progress report on the investigations to court on the day. In the meantime, the MT New Diamond tanker that was located 50 nautical miles from the Point Kalmune yesterday has been towed away and is now located 50 nautical miles from Bataclan. An expert team from the salvage company Smith Singapore Limited came on board the vessel for a 3rd consecutive day today to conduct further investigations into the vessel's fire. Meanwhile, the team is also engaged in operations to remove the toxic smoke and other gases that are trapped within the engine room. Speaking to First at 9, Navy spokesperson Captain Indika De Silva commented on the status of the ship's crew. Originally, the tanker had a 23-member crew. However, 1 perished during the boiler explosion of the vessel.
We rescued 22 crew members. The captain was the last to come ashore. The first one was the critically injured person, and he was admitted to Kalmune Base Hospital. and now he is undergoing treatments in private hospital in Colombo. And the other crew members, including the captain, was transferred to isolation centers in Galle. The 20-member crew, their PCR tests were conducted and the results were negative. And for the captain who arrived in isolation center this morning is awaiting results of his PCR test.
The Navy spokesperson also commented on the measures being taken pertaining to the oil slick that spread across 2 nautical miles from the ship.
There was 2 oil patches observed yesterday and day before, and we believe there is a continuous seeping of fuel into the seawater. And now the Navy has deployed a diving team to find out the underwater profile and the damages which may occur due to the fire and explosion in the engine room, and they are being attended right now.
With it being 7 days since the first fire was reported aboard the MT New Diamond, the vessel remains in Sri Lankan waters. When we inquired into when the ship might be taken away from the country's territorial waters, Navy spokesman Captain Indika De Silva had this to say.
It all depends on how the salvage team manages the repair work, and thereafter with the instruction and the consent from the government authorities, they will take action. It's too early to comment on the timeline for that.
Meanwhile, Captain Suresh Ratnasinghe, who has 25 years of experience in the shipping industry, says that the stricken oil tanker is a valuable asset at the moment, and if managed correctly, the country will be able to benefit from this situation.
Boiler එකක් අක්‍රිය වීමට පෙර සාමාන්‍යයෙන් alarms 3ක් එනවා. ඒ වගේ වෙලාවකට අපිට ගින්න නිවන්න තියෙන එකම ක්‍රමය ඇවිල්ලා තමයි මුළු එන්ජින් රූම් එකම ventilation channels එක වහලා ඊට පස්සේ අපි CO2 gas එක අපි නිදහස් කරනවා. ඉතින් මේ අවස්ථාවේ ඒක ක්‍රියාත්මක නොවුනේ ගැන ප්‍රශ්නයක්. ඇයි මේක ක්‍රියාත්මක නොවුනේ? මේක හුඟක් වෙලාවට මෙතන human error එකක් වෙන්න ඇති. නැත්නම් සාමාන්‍ය boilers explosions වෙන්නේ නැහැ. අමාරුම කටුක බාරය නාවික හමුදාවයි ගුවන් හමුදාවයි කරලා ඉවරයි. දැන් අපිට ඊළඟ තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ තමයි දැන් මේ වෙනුවෙන් වෙච්ච වියදම අපි කොහොමද පියවා ගන්නේ? එතකොට මේ වෙලාවේදී නාවික කාර්ය මණ්ඩලයේවත් කපිතාන්වත් මේ වෙලාවේ අරස් කරලා අපිට වැඩක් නැහැ. අපේ අතේ තියෙන හොඳම ඇසට් එක තමයි මේ නැවේ තියෙන ටොන් 2,50,000ක ධාරිතාවක් ඇති ඉන්ධන. මේක මිලියන්ස් ගාණක් වටිනවා. එතකොට අපි කරන්න ඕනේ නැව සුරක්ෂිත නම් අපි නැව අපේ අතේ තියාගෙන අරස් කරගෙන ඒගොල්ලෝ ඒකට අවශ්‍ය ඩිපොසිට් එකක් තියෙනකන් අපි අපේ සීමාවේ නැව තියාගෙන ආරක්ෂා කරනවා. ඒ වගේම දැන් ওই නැව ඩෙඩ් ෂිප් එකක් ඇත්තටම එන්ජිමක් නැති නැවක් හින්දා අපේ මුහුදු සීමාවට ගෙනල්ලා අපේ තෙල් සංස්ථාවේ ටැංකි වලට වගේ දේවල් වලට ගහන්න පුළුවන්. ගහලා ඒවා තියන් ඉන්නකොට ඒවටත් අපිට සල්ලි හම්බ වෙනවා. මේක ධන නිදානයක් හරියට අපි මේක පාවිච්චි කරන්න ඕනේ.
Enjoy a very smooth shave with the Bic Easy 2 razor. Bic Easy 2.
Now, the Parliament sat for the 4th day this week and moved the vote of condolence on leader of the Ceylon Workers Congress and former minister late Arumugan Thondaman. In his condolence speech, leader of the Tamil National People's Front, Gajendra Kumar Ponnambalam, sought to bin claims put forward by the government that the late minister never accepted the Elam Tamil struggle. Also expressing his condolences, Minister of Justice, President's Counsel Ali Sabri called the late CWC chief an inclusive leader who displayed inherent qualities of his grandfather Saumyamurthy Thondaman.
The vote of condolence on the leader of the Ceylon Workers Congress and former minister late Arumugan Thondaman was moved at the Parliament today. Many ministers and parliamentarians expressed their condolences on the passing of the late champion of the estate workers.
We who has taken the mantle of these parties, sometimes they describe us as communal parties. When he spoke about communal politics, the late Jawaharlal Nehru said, communal politics is not desirable. But however, when minorities espouse communal politics, though it is not desirable, we expect it to peter out sometime or the other. But the communalism of the majority is much more dangerous, because the communalism of the majority always comes with the garb of nationalism, and that is much more dangerous, and therefore this is something that we have to bear in mind when we talk about minority politics and espousing communalism. And this is being time and again misunderstood.
The Honourable late Mr. Arumugan Thondaman, he was not a vocal man, but certainly when it came to expressing the Northeast Tamil people's wishes within that government, he did it in a quiet but forceful way. Many people speaking today in this condolence motion tried to mislead this house by stating that the Thondamans despised the Eelam Tamil struggle. That's not true. At no point did he ever choose to compromise the Eelam Tamil nation struggle for its rights. The Honorable Jeevan Thondaman and his party, be assured, along with other members and political parties that represent the upcountry Tamil people, that the Tamil National People's Front will unconditionally support everything that they as leaders of the upcountry Tamil people do in order to win the rights and the privileges of that most deserving people.
Mr. Thondaman was an inclusive leader. Arumugan Thondaman, addressing this August Assembly, had this to say: Mahatma Gandhi has been and still my political guru. His theory and practice of non-violence became the core of my political ideology, especially the fight against the caste, the struggle for the emancipation of women, and for the total religious freedom and tolerance became my guide to action. Above all, he stood for national unity and national independence. Saumya Murthy Thondaman Matituma, Arumugan Thondaman Matitumage Siya, Sri Lankave Nidahasa Araksha Karagena, Rate Baumika Kandatave Araksha Karagena, Sielu Ministunta Samanatya Atua Jivatime Parisarayak Venuven Rijua Penisitya. Emanisama Arumugan Thondaman Matitumatat A Gunanga Nitatinma Labuna. Not to kill the goose that lays the golden eggs. If you destroy the plantation companies or the plantations, no point of getting what you want, demanding that in theory, if they can't pay and the entire plantation comes down. He knew where the balance is. So he wanted to protect the economy. He wanted to protect the companies while fighting for his people, getting the best practically possible from those companies. That's leadership. Not only leadership, that responsibility.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa outlines plans to develop the country's local pharmaceutical manufacturing capacity through a 400-acre industrial zone in Hambantota and a 100-acre local manufacturers zone in Anuradhapura. The president stated that with multinational pharmaceutical manufacturers and local medium-scale producers already expressing willingness for the ventures, Sri Lanka's annual savings by producing 50% of its annual requirement locally could result in massive savings of up to 60 billion rupees.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa chaired a discussion on the future plans of the State Ministry of Pharmaceutical Production, Supply and Regulation yesterday at the Presidential Secretariat. Highlighting the fact that Sri Lanka is currently the largest importer of pharmaceutical drugs in the Asian region, the President stressed the importance of turning this situation around with the assistance of large-scale local investors who are ready to take the lead. The head of state also said since the country imports 85% of its annual pharmaceutical requirements at a staggering cost of 130 billion rupees, manufacturing just 50% of this requirement locally could pave the way to savings of at least 60 billion rupees each year. The president revealed plans for establishing a 400-acre industrial zone in Hambantota for the manufacturing of pharmaceuticals, for which multinational pharmaceutical companies have already expressed interest in the venture. The officials were told that with huge demand for pharmaceuticals in the African and Southeast Asian region, this could be a vital opportunity to take advantage of lucrative export market opportunities. Further, the president added that a 100-acre investment zone for local investors is to be established at Oyamadua in Anuradhapura, for which 25 medium-scale businessmen have expressed eagerness to invest a sum of $300 million in the endeavor. The president added that at the moment, the country faces no shortage of essential medicines. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa presided over an official ceremony to present appointments to 298 nursing graduates at Temple Trees today.
හෙද පුහුණුව උපාධිය දක්වා යන වැඩපිළිවෙල මේ රජයේ යටතේ දැනටමත් අපි සැලසුම් කරලා තියෙනවා. මම හිතන්නේ ඒක අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම කළ යුතු කාර්යයක්. ඒ අනුව වසර 3ක ඩිප්ලෝමාව වසර 4ක උපාධියක් දක්වා උසස් කරත් මේක තමයි අපේ රජයේ බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ. එසේම ඉංග්‍රීසි දැනුම වර්ධනය කිරීම සහ ජාත්‍යන්තර භාෂාවල දැනුම ලබා ගැනීම ජාත්‍යන්තර ප්‍රමිතීන්ට අනුව විදේශ රටවල පාවා සේවය කිරීමට ඉඩ සලසන හෙද පුහුණු ක්‍රමවේදයක් අපි සකස් කළ යුතුව තියෙනවා. බණක් නොයි රට පුරා විසිරී තිබෙන හෙද පුහුණු පාසල්වල යටිතල පහසුකම් වර්ධනය කිරීමට අපි පියවර ගත යුතුව තියෙනවා. විශේෂයෙන්ම හෙද විදුහල් තුල පවතින විද්‍යාගාර ගොඩනැගිලි පමණක් නෙවෙයි නිවාසිකාගාර පහසුකම් වල පවතින අඩුපාඩු ඉදිරියේදී මගහරවා දීමට කටයුතු කිරීම මම හිතන්නේ බලධාරීගේ යුතුයකමක් හා වගකීමක්.
We will see you on the other side of this break. Bear with us.
Ceylon Bank, the bank with a heart.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, the Russian embassy in Colombo has expressed concern over a decision by the Sri Lanka Medical Council to delist 3 Russian state universities from its approved list of foreign medical colleges without any prior information. The Government Medical Officers Association suggests that a report be called for by the Ministry of Health from the Sri Lanka Medical Council on the reasoning for the delisting before it escalates into a diplomatic issue.
The 3 universities delisted are the People's Friendship University of Russia, formerly known as the Patrice Lumumba University, the Pirogov Russian National Research Medical University, and the Tver State Medical University. In a statement released by the cultural section of the Russian embassy in Colombo, it was reported that despite the 3 Russian medical colleges having offered free scholarships to Sri Lankan students since 1960, the Sri Lanka Medical Council proceeded with their removal from their list for this year. In this respect, the statement also alleged that the unexpected removal came about despite numerous meetings that were held between representatives of the 3 universities and the Sri Lanka Medical Council throughout the past few years. The statement also revealed that this decision came about despite the universities having also kept the required Sri Lanka Medical Council memberships up to date, with annual membership payments made in this regard to the Council. The statement also expressed hope that the SLMC's decision will not influence the practice of providing Russian state scholarships to Sri Lankan citizens in the future. Meanwhile, the Government Medical Officers Association held a media briefing on the issue today and called for the Health Minister to request a report on the Medical Council's reasons to prevent this from turning into a diplomatic issue.
වෛද්‍ය සභාවට සම්පූර්ණ බලතල තියෙනවා තමන් ලියාපදිංචි කරලා තියෙන වෛද්‍ය පීඨයක් සම්බන්ධයෙන් ඔයලා බලලා ඒ ආයතනය තුල ප්‍රමිතිය නැත්තම් ලියාපදිංචි සම්බන්ධයෙන් තීරණයක් ගන්න. අද දවසේ මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ මතුවලා තියෙන්නේම වෛද්‍ය සභාවේ මේ සමහර සමාජිකයන්ගේ අරමුණු වල යටි අරමුණු මොනවද කියන එක පැහැදිලි නැති හින්දා. තමන් මේක සත්භාවයෙන් කළා නම් කරුණාකරලා රටට සහ ඇමතිවරියට පැහැදිලි කරන්න මොන හේතු මාසද මේ වෛද්‍ය පීඨ රෙජිස්ට්‍රේෂන් වලින් අයින් කරන්න කටයුතු කළේ. ඒතර ප්‍රමිතිය නැහැ කියලා කිව්වට හරියන්නේ නැහැ නේ. මොකද්ද මෙතන තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ? අපි දැක්කා රුසියානු ඒ තානාපති කාර්යාලය හරහා මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් ශ්‍රී ලංකා රජයට එන බලපෑම් සහ ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් හරි පැහැදිලි කිරීමක් නැතිවීමේ අඩුපාඩු. ඒ නිසා ඇත්තටම මේක රාජතාන්ත්‍රික ප්‍රශ්නයක් බවට යනවද නැද්ද කියන එක තීරණය වෙන්නේ අපි මේ මොහොතේදී ගන්න හරි ක්‍රියාමාර්ගات එක්ක. අමුතුමීට පුළුවන් වෛද්‍ය සභාවේ මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් වාර්තාවක් ඇඳලා පැහැදිලි කිරීමක් ගන්න.
A drug racket which targeted children from prominent schools in Colombo with a narcotic named Thul was uncovered by police today, leading to the arrest of a couple who was selling the drug to students for a mere 20 rupees each. Meanwhile, police special task force tracked down and arrested an accomplice of criminal gang leader Ratgama Vidura in Hikkaduwa and recovered 2 T56 firearms.
A known associate of underworld leader Makandure Madush was arrested by police special task force personnel last night at the suspect's residence in the area of Valihinna of Matara. The STF had been tipped off about having firearms at the residence of the suspect, identified as Dhammikanuwan Ranawaka, alias Valihinda Kalua. Over 2 grams of heroin had been found from the suspect's residence, and police said the suspect had been released from prison 5 days ago. In the meantime, a close associate of criminal gang member Chintaka, alias Harakkata, was apprehended by the Valigama police while in possession of 5 grams of heroin from the area of Ahangama. In Hikkaduwa, an accomplice of criminal gang leader Ratgama Vidura, who is currently in Italy, was arrested by police special task force personnel. The STF said that 2 T56 firearms were found subsequent to interrogations of the suspect, and they were handed over to the Criminal Investigation Department. In a separate development, 2 suspects have been taken into custody with over 100 grams of heroin from the area of Ranathura Mawatha in Vannavatta of Vellampitiya. The arrest was made by the police anti-organized crime division personnel. Meanwhile, a drug racket which targeted children with a drug called Thul was unravelled by the Bambalapitiya police today. The suspects, a couple, had confessed to police that they target children from prominent schools in Colombo with the drug, and a packet of it is sold at 20 rupees. Elsewhere in Kuchaveli, 3 suspects, including a married couple, were arrested near the Erakkanidi bridge by police while transporting narcotics in the 3-wheeler. 7 grams of heroin was found from the possession of one of the suspects. In the meantime, investigations are still underway in search of the suspects who are absconding after attacking police in Atalugama of Bandaragama. During that raid, police have found 77 kilograms of nitric acid illegally kept at 2 residences in the area of Jayakodikanda in Atalugama. Investigations continue to ascertain the purpose of having the nitric acid in question in possession, since the two suspects arrested have given diverging testimonies. In a separate development, the fast unto death launched by special category inmates at the Busa prison continued for a second day today. Prison sources, however, say that a considerable cadre has withdrawn from the move. But criminals Kanjipani Imran, Vele Sudha, Kauma, Jausan and Suse are still engaged in the fast. Meanwhile, Kanjipani Imran had been brought to the Busa Navy Hospital today for an ECG before being returned to prison. What's more, attempts to lob contraband over parapet walls and into prisons continue despite recent crackdown on attempts to do so, with a number of suspects being arrested. 4 mobile phones and a packet of tobacco had been thrown into the Mahara prison and prison officials had taken into custody. Meanwhile, Secretary of Defence Major General Kamal Gunaratna today had this to say about the crackdown on crime during an event.
පික්කඩුවෙන් T56 වෙපන්ස් දෙකක් අල්ලගත්තාද ඊළඟට එනවා දේශබන්දු දෙන්නකොන් මහත්තයා සර් අතනින් මෙච්චරයි අතනින් මෙච්චරයි අතනින් කිලෝ මෙච්චරයි මෙතනින් මෙච්චරයි උදේම මගේ කනට මීපැණි වගේ එන්නේ නෝනාවි මහතුරුනේ ඔන්නෝවා ඒක මම විතරක් දැනගත්තට මදි රාජ්‍ය නායකයාගේ පටන් මේ රටේ ජනතාව හැම කෙනෙක්ම දැනගන්න ඕනේ මොකද මේ ජනතාව පහුගිය කාලේ බයෙන් මිරිකිලා හිටියේ මම කලින් ප්‍රසිද්ධියම කිව්වා රණාල ජල්තර පැත්තේ පේමන්ට් එකේ ගොටුකොළ විකුණන අවුරුදු 65ක් වයස වට්ටියම් මාසෙකට රුපියල් 5000ක් කප්පන් ගෙවන්න ඕනේ නෝනාවරේ මහත්තුරුනි සති දෙකකට ඉස්සෙල්ලා මම ගියා දඹුල්ලේ ඉදහම උදාවේ තියෙන උත්සව වාගේට සහභාගී වෙන්න ගමේ නම දෙහිප්පාව මට ලියුම් 10කට වැඩිය ගමේ මිනිස්සු ගේට්ටුව ගාවට අවිල්ලා දීලා තිබුණා ආරක්ෂක ලේකම්තුමාට මෙන්න මේ ලියුම් ටික දෙන්න කියලා ඒ ලියුම් ඔක්කොම තිබුණේ අපේ ගමේ කුඩුව දොර තියෙනවා බුදුබවත්තේ යොගතුමාට මේක නවත්තලා දෙන්න කියලා මම හෙට උදේ යනවා බෝගම්බර අතහැරලා දාපු හිරගේ බලලා ආපහු හිරගේ අලුත් වැඩියා කළා පාවිච්චි කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න බලන්න ඇයි ඊයේ බන්ධනාගාර කොමසාරිස් ජෙනරාල්තුමා මට කතා කරලා කියනවා සර් 30000 පෙන්න කියලා කොහොමද මත්ද්‍රව්‍ය අපේ ජනාධිපතිතුමාගේ දැක්පට අනුව එතුමාට ඕනේ මේකේ ලොකු මෝරු ටික අල්ලන්න මට තර්ජන වෙනවා ඕන තරම් ආරක්ෂක ලේකම්වරයා අවුරුදු 5කට පස්සේ ගෙදර යන්නේ එතකොට අපි බලාගමු පවුලත් එක්කම ඉවර කරන්නම් කියලා ඕවට බය වෙනවා නම් මේ පුටුවල වාඩි වෙලා ඉන්නේ නෑ මම
We'll see you shortly. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is First at 9. Now, Venerable Galagodatte Gnanasara Thera states that Wahhabi ideology aims to separate Sri Lanka's traditional Sufi Muslims from the Sinhala community and convert them into the ultra-orthodox way of Islam. The Thera made the claim during a cross-examination by the attorney representing the All Ceylon Jamiatul Ulema at the Presidential Commission of Inquiry investigating the Easter Sunday terror attacks. The Thera was asked by the legal counsel representing the All Ceylon Jamiatul Ulema as to what was wrong with 50% of ACJU members being followers of the Tablighi Jamaat organisation, as the Thera had claimed earlier.
The cross-examination of Venerable Galagodatte Gnanasara Thera by an attorney representing the All Ceylon Jamiatul Ulema continued last evening at the Presidential Commission of Inquiry investigating the Easter Sunday attacks. At the outset, All Ceylon Jamiatul Ulema attorney Javid Yusuf presented a document to the Thera containing a list of All Ceylon Jamiatul Ulema Executive Committee members and asked him if he was able to point out any Wahhabi ideologues among them. In response, Venerable Gnanasara Thera stated that the honorary president of the All Ceylon Jamiatul Ulema, Sheikh Rizvi, was a follower of the Tablighi Jamaat, and its honorary deputy president, Agar Mohammed, is a member of the Jamaati Islami organization. The Thera further stated that Honorary General Secretary Sheikh MMA Mubarak, Honorary Secretaries Sheikh MMM Murshid and Sheikh MSM Tasim are also Wahhabi ideologues, and added that 50% of ACJU members are Tablighi followers who prescribe to Wahhabi ideology. To this, the attorney then asked Venerable Gnanasara Thera if 50% of ACJU members are Tablighi followers as he claimed, what was wrong with that? The Thera replied that the issue with this was that Tablighi followers were seeking a gradual conversion of the country to an Islamic state, and that many incidents of illegal activities have been reported as a result of such activities from areas such as Atalugama. Venerable Gnanasara Thera added that Wahhabi propaganda material printed in Saudi Arabia didn't get blown into the country by the winds, and that such material sought to create a separation of the country's traditional Sufi Muslims from the Sinhalese community and convert them towards the practice of ultra-conservative Wahhabi Islam. The Thera further added that the president of the All Ceylon Jamiatul Ulama was openly against the worshipping at the Shrine of Saints and due to this avoids the Devatagaha Mosque in Colombo 7 and reminded the attorney that the Kingsbury Hotel bomber too was a Tablighi follower as well. The attorney then asked the Thera to explain his reasons for campaigning against halal certified products. In response, Venerable Yanasara Thera explained that although he had no objection to halal, which was the right of all Muslims, his objections lay with requiring halal certification for unrelated consumer products, such as toothbrushes. The Thera further stated that the SLS certification alone was sufficient for consumer goods, but not the halal certification logo.
Now, the man who caused a Sri Lankan student at the University of New South Wales to spend a month in jail by framing him with a fake terror plot has tearfully admitted in court that he was a coward. Arsalan Tariq Khawaja was jealous of Sri Lankan student Ahmed Khamar Nizamdin's friendship with a woman when he scrawled terror blueprints in a stolen notebook in August 2018. Khawaja is the 40-year-old brother of Australian cricketer Usman Khawaja. He sobbed as he told Downing Centre District Court that the friendship triggered insecurities and mental health issues. He said, quote, "To be blunt, I was a coward. I lacked the courage to come forward. I didn't want him arrested. Should have come forward," unquote. Nizamdin spent a month in Goulburn Supermax before charges were dropped when a handwriting expert could not conclusively prove the notebook had contained his writing. The court heard that the 2018 framing was not the first time Khawaja had used sham terror allegations against someone out of jealousy over a woman. Nizamdin returned to Sri Lanka following his release but has since spoken out about how the ordeal ruined his life. Now, in your market update, Sri Lankan shares ended higher for a fourth straight session today, helped by gains in financial and consumer stocks. The benchmark all-share price index closed up 0.7% at 5,438.91. Foreign investors were net sellers, offloading 385.7 million Sri Lankan rupees worth of shares. The equity market recorded a turnover of 1.64 billion rupees. Now, here's a brief report on today's market performance.
During the week, the ASPI gained 2.4%, mainly due to the price gains in counters such as distilleries, John Keel's Holdings and Singer Sri Lanka. The S&P SL20 increased by 1.6%. The average daily turnover for the week was up from last week to 1.9 billion rupees. The capital goods sector recorded the highest sector turnover during the week, whilst the second highest was seen in food, beverage and tobacco sector.
And that's it from all of us here at First 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.